Give me just a bit of your time and I'll show you how to save your marriage from divorce without begging, trying to convince her, or chasing. Now listen, most men are told that winning their wife back is about doing more for her. Saying the right things, making these grand gestures of love to prove how much you've changed and how much she means to you. But after 15 years in the therapy industry, I can tell you that is dead wrong. Not only that, but it often can make things worse. And there are two simple reasons as to why. Now, those things only help at the right stage of the reconciliation process. And also, number two, tactics are only 10% of the equation in getting her back. The real key, it starts with something completely different. And you wanna know the crazy part? When you watch this video until the end, you'll have all the tools that you need to take it to 90% of getting her back. Now let me show you why. In this many minutes, I'm gonna show you how to learn why logical means of changing her mind don't work as much as this other method I've developed. I will also show you a concept that gets you to influence your wife's emotions more consistently instead of you reacting to hers. And the last point we'll discuss is how to show you how to 10x the speed in which you get her back, because it transforms all of your anxiety, doubt, and confusion into just clear confidence. A confidence that she cannot deny. Let's start with the first principle. The internal reflects the external. Now look, we have to have you agree to some foundational beliefs or some truths before you can accept my total hypothesis that's gonna lead into all of this, right? Truth number one, women trust their feelings more than anything else. They tend to base their actions, motivations, and decisions on intuition, this gut feeling in their heart. As an example, a woman may logically know that her husband is a good provider and a loyal man, but if that man isn't triggering her core emotional needs, he isn't leading, protecting, and providing, she doesn't care. She will find another man who can meet those needs because those needs are equated to her own survival. Now, you'd be shocked to see how many men, when the few guys that lose their wife to another guy, an affair partner, even if it's just an emotional affair, how many times the husband, the clients in my program are just like, what does she see in this guy? He's a lot more low value. I'm not trying to feel better than him, but like objectively I am. Well, let me explain why this happens so often. So let's say you are tall, rich, good looking, you're a great father, take care of yourself, you're funny, you have all these great qualities of yourself on the external. But if we were to zoom in just a little bit, we can see that you are a nice guy who's permission seeking, you're closed off emotionally, and you're just rigid, okay? We'll expand on how these qualities in yourself cause her to feel more repulsed than attracted, but just know that a lot of guys in their internal, they have a lot of these negative belief systems that really push their wife away unconsciously. They're not aware of it. Then you have this guy who's shorter, average build, he is an average income, he makes less money than you, he's a good father to his kids, his wife and him divorced of course as well, but you're just objectively better. But this guy has other qualities. He may be funny, he may be dominant, he may be carefree, he may be well-rounded, and he may be vulnerable and express his emotions. And there's a quote that I really found out there that is actually pretty shocking. I don't want to blame your wife for things, but she is making a mistake here, but I want to kind of explain it. It's called the 10-90 rule, in that you may have 90% of what your wife wants, and then she'll leave you for the guy who gives her the other 10%. Now, that is her fault, and a lot of these affair partners, this is why we get so many guys, winning their wives back, because if they fix these things we're gonna help you fix today, the wife does come back. But at the same time, you have to recognize that she's leaving you for those traits that you did not provide for her, those key emotional desires. All right, let's talk about how women are your amplifying mirror. Now look, Bruno and Anaya, let's hear their story, because Bruno loved Anaya more than anything. Their marriage came really quickly, 4 months in, and then 2 kids followed within 2 years. Now from the start, what drew Bruno to Anaya also terrified him. She was flirty, fun, and kind of wild. It was that same feminine energy that captivated him, but also made him fear that she would eventually hurt him. The reason why is because Bruno had been cheated on before. His first wife had the same magnetic energy, and it ended in betrayal. So even though Anaya had never given him a reason to doubt her, he never fully trusted her. He never fully opened up to her. He thought he was protecting himself, but in reality, he was holding back, and Anaya felt that. She could sense he wasn't all in, even after the kids. He was just holding back pieces of himself. He kept the wall up, and he stayed distant without even realizing. One of the ways he did this was he maintained close relationships with other women as friends. But deep down, the truth is that they were a safety net. If Anaya ever betrayed him, he could latch onto these other women and get the validation that he needed to feel whole. Over time, because of that wall, the distance between them began to grow. Anaya started to feel insecure, questioning whether she was enough. And in her loneliness, she found comfort in another man. Not physically, at first, but emotionally. Someone who made her feel chosen, fully seen, fully committed to her. Now, when Bruno found out, he was furious. Of course he was. But Anaya's words hit him like a knife. She said, "You never really trusted me. No matter what I did, you always had one foot out the door. I wanted to be enough for you, but you never let me in." Bruno realized his worst fear had come true. Not only because Anaya wasn't trustworthy, but because he had created the very outcome he was trying to avoid. You see, Anaya wasn't the problem here. You have to really realize that. She was his mirror. The insecurity he feared in her was the very thing he had been feeding all along. His lack of trust made her feel unsafe. His emotional distance made her feel unchosen. And when she felt unchosen, she reflected that pain back to him. But realizing it was his turning point, he saw that trust wasn't something Anaya had to earn. It was something he had to give. He made a choice to cut off emotional safety nets, to fully commit and to show up for Anaya the way he should. Because trust isn't about what your partner might do. It's about who you choose to be, okay? So what can we learn from this story? The first concept is that the feminine does reflect the masculine, okay? Now, why do women do this? The first thing is that more than anything, like for men, we want to feel, our main desire is to feel worthy, right? To be appreciated, to hold esteem and value and be of service to this world through our gifts, right? To become that man, your own hero. For women, it is to seek deep intimacy and connection, right? In every relationship, but especially with the person that they're with, in the masculine to her feminine. The second part of this is that in a intuitive spiritual level, like her DNA, her genes, her soul can only connect with a man when he's being in his divine masculine state, or his apex masculine state that we talk about on this channel. By the way, the video at the end of this one is going to show you the ranking in order, the best habits that apex men show in our program. So stick around for that one. Now look, every time that you fall away from this apex state, she notices it intuitively, she feels the disconnect, right? And then she tests you. I have a whole video on tests on this channel as well. But just know, at the end of the day, one of her biggest reasons why she's with you and her biggest gift to you is to help you step into that divine masculine state. And in your masculine, you only respond to challenge. You should respond to challenge, right? And challenge should be something that motivates you. And there is no better challenge to help you achieve that apex, dominant, loving, grounded, leading man than her. She's giving you that gift. And so in Anaya's disconnection with Bruno, she was showing him like, dude, like you're protecting yourself. You have fear, right? And an apex man feels the fear, but does the right thing anyways. Okay, now I laid out my truths. I'm gonna put them in this little equation here, and then we're gonna go to the third point here. So the first one that we agreed on, right? And comment down below if you don't agree with these truths, you wanna argue with me about it. I would love to argue with you. I'm in an arguing mood. Number one though, women base their actions and their decisions to be with people, aka you or not, based on how they feel, that intuition. Number two, they get the biggest intuition or sources of information to make those decisions based on your actions, how you make them feel, okay? You lead in the masculine, and then she reflects those insecurities back to you if you have them. Therefore, for this third point, which is the most powerful concept I can teach you, is that when you can state control, hold your frame, and understand at what level of emotions you're at and you're experiencing, and work to bring them to a higher degree of apex alignment, which I'm gonna show you in a second, that is the most powerful tool that you could use to influence how she feels about you. Now, before we get into this final point, I wanna say, if this is working with you and you guys wanna work with our team to get a free marriage evaluation call to assess where you're at in your marriage, what the biggest obstacle preventing you from getting her back is, go ahead and click the link down below, set up a free call with our marriage evaluators. Just make sure you are fully committed to taking action to get her back. It's not simply free advice. So we want guys who are action takers. So this chart is the levels of consciousness. I go into our program a whole in depth about this advanced level, breaking this down, but I want you to just realize this is not 100% empirical. So if you're kind of that very logical, rational guy, just open your mind up for the next, couple minutes, because I'm very rational as well, but this has worked wonders when I fully understood it and used it as a model to progress. So Dr. David Hawkins, who wrote the book, Letting Go and Power versus Force, he also shared this levels of consciousness chart. And he believed that different levels of emotions, well, they sit on this hierarchy going towards God consciousness, if you will. At the bottom is shame. And if you ever have a 0 score, that would be, and honestly, a lot of the clients I worked with in drug addiction who were very shameful, they would oftentimes end it all. Now look, my goal here is to show you that you can have a man at each level of consciousness here getting a completely different result. If you want to change your results in life, all you have to do is start changing the way you filter through reality. So a stimulus is anything that happens outside of yourself, right? All the internal things are the emotions you experience, are the thoughts you have, and the belief systems or your perception. And everything that is outside of you, your actions, interacting with the world, the interface of reality, that is influencing this field or this environment, okay? And you have more power over it than you think. So let's take a very innocuous example here, okay? Let's just say, as an example, your wife calls you and she says, hey, when you get home, we need to talk, okay? Now, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna filter it through the lowest level of emotion, and then we're gonna make our way up towards the higher levels. So if a man experiences high levels of shame constantly within himself, when he hears his wife say, we need to talk, what do you think the thought pattern is gonna be? Of course, the emotion comes first, as we talked about in plenty of other videos. You experience the emotion, that primal reaction, and then you start to have a narrative about whatever feeling you have before you take action or no action on it. So a man who experiences shame, he's gonna be thinking to himself, oh no, she's gonna tell me she's cheating on me, she found someone else, she no longer loves me, that I'm not good enough. You can go on, right? Or that she's never loved me. I've heard those words from a lot of guys, and that comes from this toxic shame. Okay. And so if a man is experiencing those thought patterns, when his wife comes home, he's going to be nervous, he's going to be shut down, he's going to be quiet, he's going to be expecting the worst, and he's going to show up in a low value state. And maybe at first, when it's not a big deal, nothing bad will happen. But over time, that shame is going to influence every interaction every day throughout his life, unless he finds a way to heal that shame, to move up the level of consciousness. Okay, so we're gonna move up the chart here. We're gonna go to right here on the chart, which is, let's say a guy experiences anger, a very familiar emotion among a lot of men, right? So if your wife came to you and said, hey, we need to talk, you'd be like, what the hell we need to talk about? Like, I don't have time today. Like, I have so much to do. Look, you're always wanting to talk about, you get the point, right? And she's gonna be like, oh, he's attacking me. I don't wanna be vulnerable. I don't wanna open up to him ever again. Of course, that's also disconnect. Now, in Dr. Hawkins' Power versus Force, he says that there is a threshold between the negative emotions and the positive, right, into neutrality. So let's go above the fold here, and let's say that your emotion is one of my favorite emotions, which is acceptance. So a man that is in the emotion of acceptance, when his wife says, we need to talk, he may actually feel that initial fear or anxiety, but after that, he's able to have that space between the emotion and the action. And in that space, he has the power to then just be a blank canvas, to have meditate. When you meditate, you are able to see your thoughts and your emotions and recognize that you are not those thoughts or those emotions, you are the one observing them. And so when he has that calm confidence, that silent power, he's almost like a blank canvas, and he's just waiting for his wife to go ahead and say what she wants to say, and then he'll respond appropriately with what he wants, okay? So he doesn't let these negative emotions affect him. But let's go even higher than that. Now, this may be hard for a lot of you to really grasp, and it may seem even delusional, but just work with me here. Let's say you are just in a constant state of love, okay? Let me even put you back in a time machine real quick. Try to imagine yourself going back to the first couple months that you guys were dating, and you were madly in love. Like, you had so many coincidences with her. You guys had so much in common. You guys couldn't keep your hands off each other. And then she calls you and says, hey, we need to talk. You'd be thinking, well, do you want to tell me a new sex position you want to do? You want a place you want to go? Like, what is it? Like, I'm so excited to talk to you. Now, that may seem delusional for a lot of guys right now in their marriage to be thinking like that, but we're using extreme examples to prove the point here, okay? That if you can put yourself in a higher state of being, a higher state of love, a higher state of acceptance, right? Of confidence. When she says these things to you, you interpret it through your positive lens, and you'd be so shocked at how much influence you have in the power of expectation, in your ability to influence the way she feels. And almost, look, I don't want to take it too esoteric, but I like to, okay? There's an idea here that there are an infinite amount of realities, okay? And before you know what she wants to talk about, whatever you're imagining, it could be creating what she's wanting to talk about. It's the whole Schrodinger cat experiment, if you've ever known that. The fact that you open the box and you see whether the cat is dead or alive. The act of you opening it up, it creates the reality of the cat being dead or alive. The act of you thinking of something happening, it could create that thing very well happening. So I want you to realize how much power of expectation you have over her, and being mindful of the default feeling you have when she talks to you, okay? This is a prime example and a way to almost imagine yourself right now, closing your eyes, having her call you in your mind, answering, saying that thing, and what is your initial gut feeling, okay? Because if it is anger, shame, anxiety, depression, apathy, guilt, whatever it is, then you have some work to do, okay? So as I said, the first step in getting her back is awareness, but that isn't enough. You must also know tactically how to talk to her when she asks for space, how to let go of past resentments so you don't sabotage your progress, and overcome those limiting beliefs. By far, the best way to do this is to have expert guidance and accountability. Now, of course, we offer that in our program. We actually specialize in that, but you can get it from other sources as well. Just make sure those experts have training with the results that you would want and have guided men in a similar situation as yours. Now, therapy can be useful, but one of the elements that it lacks is expediency, right? The ability to quickly diagnose the core issue and take immediate action to solve that problem. Think about it like this. If your child was seriously ill, knock on wood over here that he never will, right? Would you schedule a once-a-week appointment with a doctor and hope that over time, the problem will cease to exist? Of course not. You'd want to take immediate action with a rapid diagnosis and a clear treatment plan to get the best results. And you would want to have him stay in the hospital until he's healed if possible. But that's what happens with therapy. You go in there for 1 hour a week, and the next 7 days, you're on your own. By the next time your next session rolls around, things could have gotten worse, right? They could have progressed and you wasted a whole nother week just lost in confusion. When your marriage is on life support, you don't have time to slow down and have these drawn out conversations. You need fast, actionable insights from experts who have seen thousands of cases just like yours to get an immediate diagnosis of the root issue and what exactly to do. Now look, our approach isn't about waiting. It's about accelerating results before it's too late. When it comes to the accountability, when you're with other men going through the same journey at different stages, it guides you forward. You can come in there, and a guy who was at exactly where you're at in the same situation, just weeks prior, he knew exactly what he did to get to the stage that you want to get at. And so he gives you that immediate advice. And because it's a guy that's been on the same journey, you take that advice and you believe it and you execute effectively. So if you've been on the fence of setting up a call, you're not entirely sure, I highly recommend you set up a call with our team. We know we can help you out. Thanks for watching the video. Here's the other video ranking the best habits in order as a tier list for masculine men, the apex male. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.